10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, welcome everybody. I'm here with Gregory, and today we're going to do a bit more on our virtual hosting company. So the company also doesn't exist, but we're trying to build like a nice portal with some nice gadgets here. But yeah, let's first welcome Gregory. Gregory, how are you doing?
Good. I'm very excited for today's stream, Don.
Excellent. Yeah, I saw a couple of things that you're gonna show today, and that looks extremely cool. So maybe you'll do like a quick run through what we did last week, and then we'll go on for the cool stuff.
Yeah, sure. And also, happy Valentine's Day. Apparently, I was told it's Valentine's Day. So we have this like Valentine's Day
I
thing
have to do it
logo
like
behind
this.
me.
Like, thank you so much. I'm looking at the camera. Yeah, yeah. You too. I hope somebody got you something, or maybe not.
Yeah. So here's our project that we've been making. And so far, we've done sort of these main pages.
Yep.
But last week, what we really focused on was our dashboard.
Yeah.
So I'm going to use this login form here. Of course, we could also just directly go to our dashboard in the address bar, but I'm just going to use this just because it's cool. And
Absolutely. And this is again very cool.
yeah, so since last week, I made a slight modification off camera, which is adding this horizontal rule here in our
Oh yeah.
pages. And I just thought that looks a little bit better.
Yep.
Um, just my own taste, but I think it's a nice separator for the pages.
Yeah, I guess that was just a Tailwind CSS selector somewhere.
Yeah, it's just the HR, like horizontal rule tag with a little bit of
Oh yeah,
CSS.
of course. Yeah.
So if I jump into my terminal,
That looks
uh,
awesome.
yeah, this is the little.
How long did it take you?
I used the package to do it. This
Uh,
package, this an AUR, like a Arch package that's like I think it's ASCII image converter. I think it's called.
yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah, and I
this is really old school, but I mean it's
yeah
still fun.
yeah, and I set up a little alias that just makes it so if I type DevX, it comes out.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. Um, Before we get started, I thought I'd mention just once again what I'm working on, and that is a Arch virtual machine. So this is just on a local server, and I decided to give it 32 threads, 16 cores of nice AMD EPIC processing, plus 32 gigs of RAM because I could. So
Yeah.
I'm working on a machine that's going to be more than adequate for anything anyone ever does when it comes to web development. And yeah, so let's get
Nice.
started.
Yep.
So I'm gonna open up NeoVim, and also again another thing to mention is if we see this bar down here on the bottom of my screen, I
Yeah.
am running Tmux. I don't think I mentioned that before, but
No.
that's just a nice easy way for me to manage my terminal session, so I can have one for these streams, I can have one for other projects. It makes it nice and easy to
Okay.
manage. But anyway, so we'll open up NeoVim. Another slight change I made, like I told you before we started, Don, over the weekend I kind of had some time, so I also kind of
Yeah.
changed the theming of my setup here. So I went away from the one dark theme,
Yeah.
and I decided to go with the cat poutine theme.
Okay.
So it looks a little bit different.
Yeah, it's a bit more. Now you're mentioning it. Yeah, it looks a bit more readable on a remote on the video stream. Yeah.
Yeah, and I added another plugin where these tags are different colors.
Oh yeah.
So as we can see, like the inner one here is green, and then that one other is orange, and the last one is blue. So it's a little bit more readable.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes a bit more sense. You can see the hierarchy in the routes actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So first, what we're gonna do is we're gonna work on that profile page because we didn't get to it last time. So I'm just gonna jump into Pages, this dashboard folder, dashboard profile.
Oh yeah.
And the first thing I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna paste some stuff. So ignore all the errors, but I'm gonna be using use callback and use state. And also we're gonna be using our DevExtreme form and simple item, group item, label, button item, and button options from DevExtreme React /form. And we're also gonna be using the pop-up from DevExtreme React /popup.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I also have this hard-coded kind of object here with just some information, and I just put in our address here,
Yeah.
just so we can see how it looks with our form. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna set up this form. So I'm just gonna create a div with a class name of flex dash column. Medium is going to be flex dash row, width dash full, and medium width dash 1000 pixels.
Okay, so on a medium device, it's going to be 1000 pixels.
Yes, sir.
Cool.
And in here, I'm going to set up our form. So I'm going to say form data is profile info. And I'm going to get rid of this read-only property here. And I'm going to add some classes. So it's going to be width dash full again. And then the margin in the X direction of 8. So we'll just close that tag. And if we jump back to our profile, and we're not seeing it yet, we have to add those items. So we'll go ahead and do that really quickly. And it looks like it's populating a lot of this for me. So
Yeah, I think Copilot is finding his way.
let me make sure it's correct. So this group item, I'm going to add a caption to it called personal info. The DX text box is correct here. And we need to get rid of
Yeah, it
this
looks like it might work actually.
group item here. And actually, I'm going to move this email here. After that, and I'm going to delete this button item for now. And there we go.
Hey, there we are.
So we have our simple just form elements here. And again, this dashboard will work as expected. So after this simple item, the zip code, I'm gonna add a button item. And inside here, I'm gonna say button options. And the type is actually not going to be success, but I am going to give it a width of 100%. That's just so it goes all the way across our form. And if we jump back, we can see that button down there. And this just kind of matches our theme. The success button type will make it green colored, and I don't really want a big green button on my page. So we're just going to leave it like that. And so outside this group item here, what we're going to do is we're going to create another form. Outside this other form. And this class name is going to be width-full and mx-8. So again, this is just some simple styling. And then the group item again, caption is going to be change password. And this should work for us. Yeah. So we can see we have this simple change password field here. And if we make the screen smaller, we can see how it becomes this whole form moves to the bottom rather than next to it.
Yeah.
And if I expand it, it moves over.
Nice. Yeah.
So just
probably put in a couple of rules as well. That new password has to match that confirm password. That's probably.
Yep, we can do that as well. And I'm not gonna set up the there is no create new password like backend, but the way to do it is, so what we would do is up here, we would say, well, what I would do probably is I would create a ref variable just to hold this information. So we can actually see how that would work. So in this login form up here, see we have this form data ref.
Yeah.
We would simply say, these two values must be equal. So the password and reset value must be the same. And yeah, that's just a nice, on submit error checking. And we can also do it in real time with DevExtreme form required rules. So that's another option to us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool.
Yep.
So underneath this div, I'm going to add a pop-up. And the pop-up is going to show when we click on a button, basically. And I'll show you what that button is going to be in a second. So I'm going to set our width to 400, and this is the pop-up width. So I'm going to set the height to 500. And I'm going to say visible is, I'm just going to say false for now, and we're going to create a variable to manage this.
Yeah.
On hiding is equal to hide, and it's just going to be a function. hide on outside click is going to be true. So if we click outside this pop-up, it'll be true.
Yep.
Show close button is going to be true. So it'll show a little X button in the corner. And title enabled is, oh, sorry, it's just going to be title equals change payment method. And we're going to expand this out. And inside here, I'm going to create a div, add a form. Inside here, I'm going to say group item. Caption is payment info. And we have these simple items. So we have our card number, our expiration, our card, like secret code. I don't know what that thing, CVV code, I guess.
Yeah.
And a button item, which says save. And actually, at the top of this, I'm also going to add another field. Data field is card type. And it's going to be a DX select box. And it's going to have editor options of card type editor options. And I'm going to add that label of card type. So down here, I'm going to add those editor options. And I'm just going to copy them over. So we can see we just have these different card types. And the default is Visa, I guess.
Okay, yeah.
And so now what we need to do is we need to create these functions. So I'm going to go ahead and do that quickly. So up here in this, just this main function we have, I'm going to say const pop-up visible, and set pop-up visible is set to a state variable of false. And we can also add a type here of Boolean. That also works, but of course true and false is pretty obvious. And I'm going to say const hide equals use callback. And I'm going to say set pop-up visible to true. And inside here, we're just going to set pop-up visible in our dependency array. And there's a little typo. And so what we need to do is we also need one more function called show payment pop-up, which is also going to be a use callback. And in here, we're going to say set pop-up visible to true.
Yeah, shouldn't you put the other one on the hide function to false? It says set pop-up visible true as well.
Yes, that should be false. And
It might be me or TypeScript or React, but fortunately it was you.
Yeah. So we're going to set that variable down here in this visible property of the pop-up. So um,
Yeah, I think now we need to trigger that somewhere, right?
yeah, so right up here under this group item, I'm going to create another group item with a caption of payment method. And so the Copilot works really well after you've already written something, right?
Yeah, yeah. I've installed it recently on my Visual Studio as well, and I have to say it does some clever stuff, but you always have to double check what it's doing because sometimes it comes up with things like, "Huh, this was not what I wanted."
So in this group item, so we're just going to have another caption that says payment method. We're going to have a button item, and inside there with the button options, this on click is going to be this show payment pop-up function up
Oh
here.
yeah.
And so this is just going to set it to true. This
Yep.
hide one will set it to false. So we can obviously cycle through. And so if we jump back here, we can see we have this section here. If I click this, we have our pop-up here.
Wow.
And inside here, we have those options that we specified.
Yeah.
Inside these forms, of course, we can set the various rules and whatnot. So we can have a mask. We can say, if it's too long or too short, that kind of stuff. Um, make sure this is a date.
Yeah. And I think if I'm not mistaken, but that card type that can be determined, I think from like the first four digits of the card number or something.
Yeah, it can.
I see that on some sites, but obviously we don't know the rules or how that works. But technically, I think if you punch in a number, there is like this small little algorithm that can actually select that card type for you as well. But
Yeah, and I'm sure there's a npm package that does that too. So
highly possible. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and so with this pop-up, it's really cool. So we can move it around the screen. We can't make it
Yeah.
any larger or smaller, but if I click
I
away,
guess that you can specify that with one of the options. I guess.
um, well, I specified the width and the height manually.
Oh yeah, yeah. You're
I don't
right.
think you can adjust. I'm not sure if you can adjust it. I don't think so. I mean, it's possible you can do it custom in a custom kind of way too, of course, with state variables. So
But
you adjust it sort of automatically, but it will probably have to repaint.
yeah, but I mean, it was definitely not a lot of work to set that all up. I mean, it's understandable code.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah,
And yeah, we have this close button. So yeah, and then we have these, of course, all these other fields that we just created, and all these
yep,
buttons are the default style. Again, this is the Fluent design theme, which is brand new for our latest release. And yeah, I mean, I was considering having a pop up where it's an actual page, so it'll be like a new
yeah.
browser window. But I think this just looks a lot cleaner.
This
And
is way
yeah,
cooler.
I'm generally a fan of having a pop up for payment stuff, just because it's more
Yeah,
secure generally than having forms, just with
you can
everything
actually
else.
track the URL. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So that's basically our profile page.
Yeah, that was not too much work.
Yeah, it's no
Cool.
big deal. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to jump into our dashboard file, and I need to make a quick little change in here. So remember last week how we dealt with this outlet thing down here?
Yeah.
According to the DevExtreme team, the best way to deal with this is to actually just wrap it in a div.
Yeah, I got that email as well.
Yeah.
I saw it.
And we can remove this reload requirement thing.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so that's just a little small little thing. So, and in here, I'm going to give it a class name of content and min-h-screen. So it'll be the minimum height of the screen.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just going to give it an ID of content as well. And up here, I'm going to give this an ID of drawer. And down here in this render item function, or actually down here, sorry. This actually looks correct. Okay, so we're all good. Just a small little change.
Yeah,
So
probably
basically,
won't notice any difference here, but in
yeah, it's
circumstances,
basically the same, just a small little change to make it a little smoother. I don't think you can really not tell at all.
yeah.
But theoretically, if you have like a massive payload, not having it reload the page as in a refresh, it would probably speed
Yeah, then
up
it
a
fixes
little
it.
bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we're going to do now is work on this cloud storage page here. And we're going to do some pretty cool stuff, add some gauges, a data grid, and there'll be some pretty cool stuff we're going to do. So
Nice.
let's get started with that.
Yep.
And what we need to do, first of all, is go into our pages, into this dashboard, and we're going to call this dashboard cloud storage .tsx. And we can open this up. And that's correct. We'll just add that div. And we'll jump back into our app here. We'll add this route. And let's make sure it's working. And it is.
Cool.
So nice and quickly, we could just take care of that. So what I'm
Now
gonna
you're gonna
do,
put in some gauges.
yeah, so first of all, I'm just gonna do add some of these imports just so we don't have to do them manually. And so again, we're gonna be using use callback and use state. We're gonna have a data grid, which imports our data grid types, column, and sorting from the data grid, imports a button. We have these two things, which I am going to comment out because it's going to cause us some issues. And we have this use navigate. And the navigate we can deal with right now. And we can create some state variables. one called selected row, and set selected row. And we'll deal with the type in a second. And it's going to be another variable called focused row key. And we're just going to need that in a second. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this data array here. So this is just going to be like
Use that for feeding the visualization controls, right?
yeah, for our data grid, just because I don't want to
Okay.
do it. I don't want to type it again, obviously, but this is just some very basic stuff, just so we can see how it works. Of course, this is not real data, and we will obviously just be getting this from a back end, but I didn't set that up for this. So what we need to do here and under this H1 is we need to add that horizontal rule.
Oh, that thing that you added off camera.
Yeah, so the way I did that is I just did H-1, so height-1.
Yeah.
M-4, BG-gray-700, border 0, and rounded, so the edges are rounded.
Oh, yeah.
And that's basically what it is with that. And also I'm going to add a H4. And this is going to have a class name of margin Y-4 and margin X-10. So basically this will just push it over a little bit down and a little bit right. And under this, I'm going to have a div with a class name of flex and justify center. And we're just going to leave this like this for now. And add another div down here with a class name of mx-4, mdmx-12.
That's
and
like margins horizontally of 4, so left and right, and margin down on a what is that, MX?
yeah,
Medium
so
square,
it's going to
right?
be mx, so mx-4. So in the x direction along the horizontal, it'll be
That
4
one.
for a small screen, 12 for a medium screen, and p-8 is going to be just padding -8. So
Oh, yeah.
whatever that pixel value comes out to is just going to be that's just a Tailwind class. So
Yep.
I just did that. I thought it looks best. The nice thing about Tailwind is it kind of just figures it out, and you can just try different stuff and see what works best and just kind of go with it.
Yeah, I'm trying to read that those class names of Tailwind, and yeah, it's understandable.
Yeah, so in here, I'm going to add a button, and the icon is going to be plus. Text is going to be add storage. Styling mode is going to be contained. Type is going to be default. The on click that looks correct. And I'm going to add a class name of margin bottom -2 and adjust our button there. So we have this button.
Cool. Yep.
Yep. So it's just a little simple button. And underneath
Yeah, the
this,
plus icon.
yeah, underneath this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add our data grid.
Yeah, I noticed that Copilot was already, it was ready to inject that data grid code, right?
Yeah, it was getting a little excited.
Yeah.
I mean, what can I say? I mean, Copilot loves the data grid.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, it's probably something it had never seen before, but yeah, it's worth to check it out. So you're now putting in just a few options of the many that the data grid
Yeah.
has.
So this is just a little bit of typing, a little boilerplate, sadly.
Yeah.
So these are some functions I have to create in a second. And inside our data grid, I'll just open this up for now. So I'm just going to go ahead and create these functions. So this focused row key is the state variable. And the idea of this data grid is when I click on a row, I want it to actually do something.
Yeah.
So I have to create some functions to do that. And sadly, this is one of those things where it's kind of annoying. So what I have to do up here, first of all, is I need to add a type called selected row type. And it's going to have these, name, status, usage. So it's basically the same as in this data.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm going to add a type on these state variables as well. So this set selected row is going to be selected row type. So it's that type we just created, or null, and then set it to null. If we don't add this or null, we'll get a type error. So that's just why I did that there.
Oh, that's the first time probably when that thing is accessed, it will be null.
Yeah.
And then it will crash.
And this is just going to be a number. And then to set it by default to 1. So basically with this selected row key, it's just going to be the key of 1. So it'll essentially be the ID of 1 in our grid. We can also set it to nothing, just a choice. I just decided to have it so it actually select something from the get-go.
Yeah, but isn't that like the row index, by the way, that one? Or is it searching by key?
Yeah, well, that's not so it's the key.
Oh,
So
okay.
the key is going to be the ID. So if we see down here, I
Oh,
set
yeah,
the
you
key
specified it. Yeah,
expression to ID.
yeah.
So yeah, so that's how it's related.
Yeah, I missed that setting, yeah, but now you were pointing it out. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to say on focused row changing, use callback, and I'm just going to set this up for now. But inside here, so in this outside this first parentheses, we need to set it to async. And this is going to be an event of data grid types of focused row changing event. So it's quite a long type.
Yeah. And you have to be careful not to go for the other one because that happens at another time. So you'll get like incorrect data, probably.
Yeah, it's kind of annoying.
Yeah, well, I think, yeah, now you have full control when the row is changing and when it has changed. So, yeah, The grid is has a lot of power and a lot of features.
Yeah, it's just TypeScript is can sometimes be a great help, and sometimes it can make the code harder to read. So
True.
we can just deal with it. But obviously, we can set the type to any. We'll just get some errors, but
Yeah, that's
it's
also
fine there
the whole
too.
idea of TypeScript is to have strongly typed code basically, so it can help you out with those kind of bugs.
So basically, these rows count and page count. So this is essentially just uh, functions that we have part of the data grid.
Hmm.
So this is just from we can just see all this stuff in our docs, see what drill down into what these exactly are. But they're simple enough. I mean, page count is just a number, and the visible rows is just how many rows are displayed on the screen. So theoretically, if we had multiple pages, this would make it a little bit more easy to see and read and all that. And we also need that page index, even though we're not going to have pages today. This is just how we do it in our docs, so we have everything covered.
Yeah.
And we're going to say const key equals, and this is kind of a weird one. So event as any dot key, and oops. Above here, I'm just going to set a sort of little warning. ESLint dash disable next line TypeScript ESLint no explicit any warning. So I'm just going to sort of get rid of that warning so we don't have to see it anymore.
Oh yeah.
And here I'm going to add an if statement and make sure it's correct because it's not correct right there. So this is just an if statement. So if the key exists and the previous row index is equal to the new row index,
Nothing has changed.
yeah. E dot new row index equals rows count -1 and page index is less than page count -1. So I mean, this stuff is all kind of self-explanatory. I mean, it's just if conditions. What's going to happen is we're going to await e dot component dot not option, sorry, page index of page index +1. So we're basically just going to wait for the page index to change.
All right.
And it's going to be e dot component dot didn't get it right, option of focused row index and 0.
I think you made a typo on the
Yeah.
component one as well. Yeah.
I can't seem to type component today.
Yeah. We all have those days.
Yep. And I'm going to add an else if here of e dot new row index is equal to 0, and we have to use those triple equals again, just another TypeScript thing. Well, more JavaScript thing technically, but and in here We're going to await e dot component that page index is page index -1. And then the option is going to be rows count -1. So it's just kind of the difference of, the adding or subtracting here.
Yeah.
So after this that's pretty much done. We need to create that other function of on focused row changed. Again, it's going to be a use callback.
Oh, this is after the row index has actually changed. So,
Yeah, so this is afterwards, right?
yep.
And I'm just going to copy this so we don't have to watch me write it. And so what this is going to be, and it's the changed event. So this one is changing and this one has changed.
Yeah.
And so what's happening in this function is we're getting our data. So the row data, we're just taking that variable and saving it. And then we're going to split these sort of strings. So we're going to get this usage, this total, and this price out. And we're going to get rid of the different characters, the $sign, this GB, and this percent sign. And then we're going to set the selected row state variable. So this is just going to hold all the information that's in that row. And we're going to set the focused row key to data.id. So basically, when we get this data out of our grid, we're going to set the focused row so the row is highlighted in the grid. And we're going to save the data that's in the row. Hopefully that's
Yeah. Basically, you have a copy of the selected row somewhere else. Copy of the
yeah,
data.
pretty much.
Wouldn't it be easier to like because now the price I think is a string type. Wouldn't it be easier to make it like a number type or something because you're filtering off those currencies?
Yeah, it would be. It's just one little dumb thing I did, and I just solved it by splitting the string off.
Yeah, that was what I was mentioning.
Yeah,
No problem.
it's okay. I just kind of like having the $sign there and like this format. So, and also when it comes to databases, I find it's a lot easier just to save everything as strings because then it gets really kind of annoying, with SQL just having to
Uh,
deal with it.
yeah, well,
It just
it's
makes it easier
numbers.
when you have to write your SQL. You can just copy and paste every line. It just makes it so much faster. It's just a weird, just a nice little bad habit of mine, of course.
Yeah, you're about right about that habit. Yeah. All right. So
Um,
now we're going
yeah.
to add
So
some
now
columns, I guess, or is that not necessary?
ask what was that?
Columns to the data grid, or are you just gonna use all the available information?
Yeah. So first, I'm gonna set this sorting mode to single, so we can have just some sorting. The user might want to do that,
Yeah.
and the column. The first one is going to be ID, and we're going to set that visible to false, so we can't see the ID number because it's most likely going to be something kind of gross.
Yeah. And
And
what I really like about our products, I mean, I have used pretty much all of the different data grids that we have. I mean, I started with a data grid for Delphi, and then I moved over to WinForms, WPF, web forms, everything. That those data grids, they all work the same, which I think is brilliant because you know what you're doing and what to do. And for here, it's just the same. I mean, if you're used to a DevExpress data grids, it's not really a lot of new stuff that you're doing here.
Yeah, we try to keep everything pretty consistent across the product lines in terms of
Yeah,
naming and the various functions. So yeah. And if we just look here, so here's our grid basically. And when I
yep,
click, this is all changing. So we could see how the focused row works. And we also have this sorting. So we can sort our rows. And I'll just close this side panel here. And we can see we have our border on the grid. And I think this looks pretty nice. So not very clean and minimal.
absolutely. Yeah,
And we have this add storage button. It'll take us to this add page, which we haven't created yet. And so down here, what I'm going to do is what I want is, let's say we're looking at our grid. I want to have a button here on the side that takes us to these various places, right?
yeah,
So I'm just going to go ahead and create that button. So this is just going to have to be a separate component. I'm going to call it grid button. And it's going to take a cell data parameter here. I'm going to open this up and add this navigate. And I'm going to add this return. And in here, I'm going to say, I'm just going to add the button like this for now while I fix this type here. And the cell data type is going to be data grid types dot column cell template data. So again, it's a bit of a mouthful, but this button here, I'm just going to say text is view more styling mode is outline. Type is default. And this on click is going to be and that's correct. And we can get rid of that. And I'm actually going to turn this into a interpolated string. And there we go. And inside this button, I'm just going to give it a name of more. So we can just do that. Or actually, I can probably get rid of that entirely. Just like that. That should work as well. And inside here, we're going to add another column. And add a caption of view more and a cell render of grid button. And I'll
it's just
close
the
that
function
down.
that you just created. Yeah.
Yeah, so that just is right here.
Okay.
And if we jump back, we should see, yeah, there's our buttons.
Sweet. Yeah, I do see a question coming in the chat, Gregory. How can you create round corners? That shouldn't be a big deal, I guess, with Tailwind, but
I'm
so
assuming
what do
on
you
the
want to do?
grid.
The buttons? Yeah, the grid.
So on the buttons, so these are just our
They're
own
not
styling,
rounded,
so
right?
they're already rounded.
Yeah,
With Tailwind, we just say rounded dash whatever, so small, medium, large.
yeah,
Um, of course, with just plain CSS, like vanilla CSS, it's border dash radius, and you add a pixel value. For this grid, I don't know if there's a rounded property for DevExtreme.
there is not a rounded property, but I guess that you can put a class on the data grid,
Yeah,
like a Tailwind class, I guess.
let me see if this works. So if I just add that property, nah, I would have to. So what
Not
way
round.
we would do this is, excuse me, we would just jump in so we could see our grid.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to get. I'll try. So if we can see our entire grid here, so dx-data grid is this class name in here. Let's see if I can make that bigger. So just right here, what we would do is we would override that class name. So we just add another CSS file and we'd say, .dx-data grid
Yeah.
or dx grid base container, one of these. And we would just add that border property. So let me see if I could do it here.
Yeah, I just answered it in the chat. Um,
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we just have to play around with it.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, of course it's possible. I mean, it's just some CSS.
Cool.
Yeah. Let me see if there's a. Yeah, I don't know. That's okay. So anyway, what we're gonna do now is we're gonna come here into our components, to our dashboard, and
Oh, yeah.
add some components. And yes, so it'll be cloud storage price gauge, and it's gonna be cloud storage usage gauge .tsx. So we can open up these files, and this is just going to be a small circular gauge. And I'm going to paste some stuff over. So this is going to have our imports of our gauge and some of the gauge elements,
Yeah.
including the export, which is really cool, of course, just like the chart on our homepage.
Oh, that works with edges as well. That
Yeah.
is.
And then we have this node type, and this is again just what we have in our data grid. So I just created that type here as well. So it's going to be this cloud storage usage gauge. And that is correct. And we'll add our return here. And inside this return, we're gonna have a div and a circular gauge. We can get rid of this stuff for now. And inside this div, we're going to give it a class name of width dash 1/2 and medium width dash 1/4. And I'm going to give this gauge an ID of gauge and a value of parse int node.usage. So this node that we pass in our usage here,
Yeah.
I'm gonna just make it an int so it works with our gauge.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, so that kind of takes care of that annoying thing we had with the strings before. We're gonna say scale, start value is 0, end value is 100, and tick interval is 10. And inside there's gonna be a label with use range colors is true.
Oh yeah.
And then this range container is not correct. We're going to say range with a start value of 0 to 80. And this color looks fine. And 80 to 100 and that color is fine as well.
Oh, that's going to be like the same in the car. If your RPM is hitting the limit, it's got like a red portion of the gauge, right?
Yeah.
Ah, cool.
And this text, I'm going to say node.name usage, just like this. So it's going to get the name of that individual node.
Exactly.
Make this a little bit bigger, and I'm going to say color is white. So the title is just going to be white. And down here we have our export.
Of course.
Oops. And yeah, that should be just about it for this cloud storage gauge.
Yeah.
And
looks fine.
yeah, so then I'm just going to copy all this. And I'm going to paste it into this cloud price gauge. So the price gauge is going to be very similar.
Yeah.
And the only difference is I have to change this node to price.
All right.
This start value and end value. I'm going to change this tick interval to 5. And this is all going to be the same. I'm actually going to get rid of this color here.
Yeah, I mean, price-wise, it should all be green, right?
Yep. And I'm going to change this color to green.
Exactly.
Actually, I'm going to make it light green.
Yeah, even better, even better.
And this is all the same, except I'm going to change this to cost. I'm actually going to get rid of this vertical alignment because we want it to be at the top. I'll do that in this other file as well. And then when we go back to our cloud storage page up here, I'm going to uncomment both of these. And we're going to come back to,
This is obviously exactly the reason why you are saving that selected item, because you're going to probably bind that now to those two gauges, right?
exactly. So in here, I'm going to actually say if there's a selected row. So we're going to have a selected row no matter what, because I set it in that state variable to 1, the ID.
Yeah.
So we're going to have it no matter what. But if we didn't, this is how we would do it. So if there's no selected row, it wouldn't show these gauges at all.
I can assure you on production that will happen somehow. That's the way it works. So it's good to check that.
And
Yeah, you'll pass in that selected row. Cool.
so that's that. And we'll go ahead and swap this out in a second so we can see what it does. But here's our gauges.
Sweet.
So if I refresh,
You'll actually see them move.
yeah,
If you go to
so
like another row, it will do it as well.
yep. So yeah, that's very cool.
It is.
And we have our export functionality here as well. So if I hit this print and we give it a second, you can see our gauge there.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's all very cool. And we have our titles, of course. And yeah, I mean, it's all pretty much working as expected. If I change this here to 0,
Yeah.
we see we don't have our gauges and nothing's selected in our grid. If I click one of them, we see it now.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, so if we had, let's say, nothing in here actually, then it wouldn't show anything.
Yeah, then the entire page will be blank. Pretty much. That is a very cool thing you put together here.
Yeah, I mean, I've been waiting to figure out a way to show off some of these gauges because they're just so cool.
They are. Yeah, I have been playing with them as well, and unfortunately, I didn't got like to find any production scenario for it. But I mean, the things are just cool to look at, and the styling is endless. You can put in colors here and there, and yeah, really cool stuff.
We also have gauges that are like car gauges as well. So if you want to actually look like a car, we have that too.
You can actually build your car dashboard with it. Yeah. And of course, the nice animations when the values change, you'll see them go.
Yeah.
Really sweet.
And also, if you notice, if I can hit the arrow keys, and that also works in the grid.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's really cool. We can also modify these, I don't know what you'd call the spoke, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, like
the
a
arrow.
hand or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can also modify those. We have different kind of styles for those as well. I kind of like this just default kind of simple look, but we have like more, kind of pointy arrow kind of looks. We could have it so it's like a bar chart, but in a circular gauge kind of look. We have those as well. We have lots of them that you can just see in our demos.
I was going to say that, yeah, our demo site will show a whole bunch of variations, and you can play around on the demo site with it as well. Change some of the properties and see what it does. So, yeah.
Yeah, and so this is all super cool stuff. And yeah, that pretty much wraps it up for what we have today.
Yeah, well, that was a really cool thing. I'm checking the chat box. Well, if you want to play around with this demo, obviously the GitHub repo is available in the chat box. So yeah, go there, clone it, check it out, play around with it, and next week We're gonna have two other streams on Tuesday. It is Eric and Amanda talking about Maui and reporting, I think. Next Wednesday, I won't be there, but you'll probably be there with Amanda or maybe even Eric. I don't know.
Yeah.
And that,
Hopefully, we'll be able to figure it out next week and still be able to stream.
yeah, I'm pretty sure we'll be available on Wednesday. So, yeah, no more questions in the chat box. So, thank you all for watching and see you on the next stream. Bye bye.